What do you do to find peace when you're overwhelmed when you're raising your kids?
What I have found through a lot of self-reflection, because it's absolutely critical for me to raise my kids in a way where I'm not the only one in control. They are also great teachers to me. And oftentimes, I think that when we are triggered or stressed or feeling reactive, it's because our kids are like pushing a button within us of something that's a lot deeper than just being like, oh my God, they're super freaking annoying.
Hi, I'm Kelley Namiro. Welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast, a lifestyle podcast where we'll talk about wellness, motherhood, and some really exciting things in between. My goal is to help you develop a lifestyle that promotes health, wholeness, and success. Through my conversations with our experts and guests, I hope to inspire you to live a beautiful, full, and joyful life as you navigate balancing the chaos.
Welcome back to the Balancing Chaos podcast. Today we have probably my favorite guest of all time here to interview me, Kate Dessa. Kate is my social media manager, and you guys are going to fall in love with her as much as I have over the last, I don't know, it's probably been like 6 months now, but she's really incredible. She has the most creative mind, and she has put together a list of questions from you guys that I do not know what they are yet. We have not done any sort of preparation for this. This is going to be raw, real answers. And we're going to go through and do a Q&A because we've never really done that on the podcast before. And it's going to be just a better, more fun way to get you guys, for you guys to get to know me in long form rather than just in those short little snippets on social media. So without further ado, Kate, welcome. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course. This is going to be a fun episode, so I'm excited to be here.
We're very excited. So I think that the way that you broke it out is like we're doing it in sections of like hormones and then nutrition and then maybe some like personal parenting type stuff. And then we'll do like a quick rapid fire at the end. But I will let you take it away and get into it.
All right. Well, I am always, like Kelley said, I'm always on all of our socials and reading a lot of the questions that come in and talking to a lot of you guys in the comments and whatnot. So first, let's start off of just why hormone balance is important and why, especially us as girls weren't really taught about hormones growing up, and how if you're an adult now and you're just learning about the importance of your hormone health, why is it something you should be thinking about?
It's a great question. And I think that, like you said, we are not really taught this when we're growing up. Like, I think we all go to like that one sex ed class when we're like in middle school and like, all right, this is what's going to be like when you get your period. And then they like send you on your merry way. And that's pretty much,
and that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you get. And there is just so much more that goes into it. And I think that even like another just like crazy example to me is that like so many of us, I mean, for me, even for the longest time in my 20s, like as I was on a decade long, stint of birth control pills, like I thought that I was getting my period every month. I'm like, this is my period. And now it's like lighter because I'm on the birth control. No, you're not getting your period when you're on birth control. You are getting a withdrawal bleed because you're not ovulating when you're on birth control. And there's just so much misinformation out there and so much that I feel like people don't know and aren't aware of. So let's go back to like the original question that you asked. Why are hormones so important? Hormonal balance is so crucial for our overall health and well-being because hormones play pretty much the biggest role in regulating all of your bodily functions. And so if something is off, then you are going to feel it symptomatically. These hormones, whether it's your blood sugar or your estrogen or progesterone, all of these different hormones that you hear me talk about all the time, they're these little chemical messengers in your body telling your body, hey, like it's telling a tissue or an organ, you need to do this. You need to act in this way. So it's going to regulate things like your metabolism, your energy levels, your reproductive health. So estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, Those are key hormones for regulating your reproductive health. And if those are imbalanced, you're going to have irregular menstrual cycles. You might have infertility. You might have something like PCOS, and symptoms that are related to even menopause, are highly impacted by making sure that those reproductive health hormones are actually balanced. When we think about your mood and your mental health, those things are impacted by your hormones. Hormones like serotonin, dopamine, and cortisol significantly are going to influence your mood and your mental health. And imbalances there are going to lead to things like anxiety, depression, and mood swings. And what's crazy, I was actually listening to something today on, I think it was on Fox News, but like this, it was a health and wellness guy. And he's talking about how 1 in 4 women adult women are on an antidepressant nowadays, which is, it's a pretty big stat. It's actually the most prescribed medication in the United States, like bar none. And so when we think about that and we think about, okay, like what's the root cause of this? Why are so many people feeling like this? You rarely see a doctor going in and being like, let's test your hormones to see if that may be why you're feeling super anxious. Do you have really low progesterone? Are you not ovulating every month? Okay, let's give you progesterone, because that you're not SSRI deficient. You might be progesterone deficient. And so, right.
When was there ever a doctor, when you go in and you say, I can say from personal experience, I assume you can too, that like you say, I'm struggling with anxiety, and they ever have been like, let's look at your hormones. Never. It was always, okay, well, here's a bunch of anxiety prescriptions I can give you to fix that for you.
Absolutely. That's always the answer. And so I think that when we think about, like, again, like just like to list off a few other things, like your immune function, hormones like cortisol play a huge role in modulating your immune function. Sleep regulation is controlled by your melatonin, because that regulates your sleep and wake cycles. Your skin and your hair, hormones like androgens, and even thyroid hormones affect the growth of your hair. Bone health, cardiovascular health, appetite and weight are controlled by hormones called ghrelin and leptin, and then obviously your blood sugar and insulin levels. And so when you think about like all of these unwanted pesky symptoms that like you hear people complaining about all of the time, I can't sleep at night, I'm super anxious, I feel irritable, I can't lose weight no matter how little I eat and how much I exercise. The majority of the time, it is coming back to some sort of an imbalance in your body based on your first genetic predisposition, because that absolutely does play a role. For example, like my family history has a thyroid genetic predisposition, but it also is triggered by your lifestyle and how you are living. And so for me, that trigger was 5 to 10 years of an eating disorder. That was like, hey, we're going to slow down now, and we're not going to give you the energy or metabolic support you need because you're starving us and we don't have the energy to do that. And so you have to consider both things, but there has to be a trigger that is pulled in order for so many of these imbalances to actually be kicked off in the first place. So I hope that answers that question.
And for you personally, did you know, Kelley, did you go to the doctor and say, I want to get my thyroid tested? Or was that something because you knew it ran in your family? Or how long did it take you to discover that hormone imbalance in yourself?
That's a great question. So it all started back in my like early 20s. I think I was like 23, and I had come off the birth control pill because Chad and I broke up. And we were like, I had just graduated from college. We broke up. I was like, I'm not going to date anyone else right now, so I don't need to be on this birth control pill. So I'm going to come off and have my normal cycle. And I did that, and my period did not come back. I was like, what is happening here? Yeah. And I was the person who had periods like before I went on the pill when I was 17. I had periods like clockwork. It was like every month, same time. Like it was super, super easy, and they weren't painful or anything like that. And so it was just really weird that they had disappeared. And again, I didn't connect it to my eating disorder at the time. None of the doctors I was seeing was like, how much are you eating? Are you eating enough food? And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, obviously not going to be forthcoming with that
No, of
information,
course not.
but
Yeah.
at that time when I was really struggling, but
Yeah.
no one asked me. And so every answer I got was just go back on the pill.
On the pill. Yeah.
At the time, I was also like really frustrated because I was working out a ton and not losing any weight. My hair was falling out. And the answer I got from two doctors who I saw was just like, use Rogaine. I'm like, I'm 23.
What?
Like, I'm 23. You want me to use Rogaine? Like,
Oh my
what?
God.
So I'm like doing all these things and I'm like, I have all these symptoms. I'm so bloated. I get yeast infections every month. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And so finally, because my mom had struggled herself with a thyroid issue,
Yeah.
she was like, why don't we get your thyroid tested? At least that can be part of what's going on here, because there's a lot of times with thyroid, you know, you're losing your hair, you have really bad digestive issues, you have low energy, you're irritable. And so I was feeling all those things. And so we ended up going and we saw a functional medicine doctor who was like, oh yeah, like your thyroid's way out of whack. Like we got to get you on some medication now, that way, like you stop having some of these pesky symptoms as you work on your lifestyle, diet, etc. Now, at the time too, like I love the doctor who was able to figure this out for me. She's fantastic. But at the time, like she wasn't explaining to me the role in gut health on thyroid and the impact on your thyroid, the role in how you eat. So that was all research that I had to do on my own over the course of a few years to finally get to a place where I was like, okay, I'm able to lower the dose of medication I'm on. I'm able to like actually feel a major improvement in my symptoms, because yes, the medication helps, but it's not a cure-all. It's not like everything is miraculously better when you take this pill.
Yeah.
And so I think that it was like a long road and a long story in terms of getting my period back, getting my hair to grow again, getting like some of these things figured out. And it was a combination of like that first, like her first figuring that out for me and giving me an answer so that I had a path to go down. And I'm not saying everyone should do it on their own, because it's a lot of, it's a full-time job.
And that was years of work for you to get back to a healthy place where you did have your period again. You were feeling confident in your weight and all. Like how long of a process was that for you?
Oh God. So I found out that when I was 23. And then I think that it was so then I went back on the birth control pill, because again, I still was so uneducated at the time that I was like, oh, doctors were like, well, just go on the birth control pill and that's going to regulate your period. And I'm like, okay. So I did that. I went back on the birth control pill for another, probably from the time I was like 24 to like 27. And then Chad and I were getting married and at that time I was at 27, 28, I had really figured out, again, like what we were talking about, like my hair, my energy levels. I was like, I felt better, much better about my weight. I had a much better relationship with exercise and food, and like things were good. And then I came off of the birth control pill in like August of 2018. So I was 28 and it was right before I got married. And I actually finally like was like, wow, like, okay, I feel pretty good being off of this. And it took probably from that point, like 6 months, which is longer than it is for most people. I think I mean, I had been on it for 11 years. So, and I was really trying to not be stressed and not like be anxious about it. But the time before when I had came off, when I was 23, it was a full year and I never got a period back. And so that's when they were like, just go back on. And I was like in the mindset.
That's when they're like, just go back on. You haven't, it never changed. So just get back on it.
Just go back on. And I was in the mindset where this is how crazy I was about like wanting to have kids. I actually, at that time when I had no like sights of a partner, because I had no idea Chad and I were going to get back together. I was fully single, like living with my parents at 23. I went to go see a fertility doctor because I was like, please tell me that I'm not in like early stage menopause right now. Because I was so scared that like I had done something to myself with this eating disorder that wasn't going to make it so that I couldn't have kids. And so I will say, like, just to wrap this in a bow, it was a lot, like, yes, it was a lot of research. Yes, it was a lot of like changing my diet, changing the way I was eating and fueling myself. But to be able to do those things in the first place, that took a lot of work on my mindset and getting really uncomfortable in the sense of like, okay, I'm only eating 800 calories a day. And in order to get my period back, I have to like, and like to feel good in my body and to make my thyroid healthy and all the things that I wanted, I have to do things in a very different way than I'm doing them right now. And the outcome and the end result is like, it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that I'm going to be like thin and feel good and like have a like nice, like healthy weight and all. But in order to do that, like I had to build back a lot of trust with myself and my body and do the mental work in order to be able to feel comfortable and safe making those changes in my lifestyle.
Yeah. And that process in itself it can take years in itself to do.
Absolutely. And I think that's why, like, when you ask, like, how long did it take?
Yeah.
I think that like going from 23 to 28, so it's like a 5-year span of being able to be like, okay, I eat regular meals now. I'm not terrified of food. I'm not working out 2 hours a day. It wasn't like I was just able to like stop those behaviors. And that took like, again, like you said, like years, because I had to change my mentality around, okay, this exercise is actually harming me. This is not getting me the outcome I want. I have to trust that all of the diets and cleanses and detoxes that I've done in the past never worked. And so I have to be willing to try something new to see if that's going to work, because none of the shit that I'm doing now is working.
Yeah. I guess that brings me to a question that someone from Instagram had, Elise B. But it also kind of to your former self, like if someone was where you were at when you were 23, or if someone a little bit older is realizing that they're, hormones are out of whack and they're in the same place you were at, what would you tell them the first thing to do to get started? If they've gone to their regular doctor and there is no one directing them beyond, the typical prescriptions that doctors are prescribing for anxiety or, hormone issues, birth control, antidepressants, those types of things.
So I think that it's a little bit multi-pronged, but I think that the basis and the foundation is really educating yourself. And I think that it's like, if you're listening to this podcast episode, that's what you're doing here, is you're educating yourself and knowing that being on a prescription for the rest of your life, because you have anxiety or because you have, weight loss resistance or whatever it is like, there's going to be a risk to that choice, right? All of these prescriptions, you've never heard one commercial on a prescription where they're not listing off like a whole, there's so many funny like reels and memes about it, but like, it's the truth. There's really not a prescription out there that doesn't come along with its own host of side effects. And so you have to be willing to weigh the cost benefit of like, do I want to do the uncomfortable thing of changing my lifestyle, which is hard and it's not easy and it's scary and it's uncomfortable, because as humans, like we are driven to seek comfort. That's just how we've evolved evolutionarily. Like that's the whole process of aging, is just like getting more and more and more in your comfort zone. That being said, it's like, okay, would I rather do this and have the better long-term result, prevention, feel better in my body, or would I rather have the easy way out and be on this prescription that may not even give me the fullest amount of relief that I want? So that's question number one. And I think that if you're here, you probably are telling yourself the latter, like or the former, I want to change my lifestyle. I want to do the uncomfortable thing. And so from that place, it starts with like, for me, it started with like having the actual data under my belt. And so what I mean by that is like there were a lot of doctors who I went to who were willing to just do a regular CBC. Like, yeah, sure, we'll do a CBC and look at your TSH. Oh, your TSH is normal, which is TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. And that range for that, it was like 0.5 to 5.0, and your TSH is 4.8. You're in the normal range, so we're not going to do anything about it. And like, if you go to a functional doctor, they're going to look at the whole thyroid panel. If you come to see me, we're looking at the whole thyroid panel. So we're looking at everything. And like, this is with respect to every hormone imbalance, your blood sugar, your insulin, your digestive health, your adrenals. We're looking at everything because the reality is that your body works together from a very holistic standpoint. So like, I was talking to a friend about this today. It's like, my father-in-law, I love him to death. He's an infertility specialist. And he'll even tell you, like, they're trained in a way to say, like, okay, your ovaries and your uterus, this is the problem. And we're going to treat this problem by doing IVF. Where instead, you could look at it as, oh, you have estrogen dominance. You have a way higher estrogen with relation to your progesterone. And that's why it's creating this cycle of inflammation, endometriosis, and implantation failure. And that's why you're not getting pregnant. And so along with, maybe doing IVF, we're also going to treat the estrogen dominance that you're dealing with that's causing this vicious cycle in the first place. And so when I finally started working with somebody who was willing to look at my body as a whole, how it worked together as a whole, and how it functioned, like all these different pieces function together. Okay, T4 is, which is another thyroid hormone, is converted to T3, your active thyroid hormone in your gut. Your gut is messed up. You have candida. You have to heal that if you want the thyroid conversion. Like, when I was able to work with somebody, which is what I do now to help people, so people understand that, then it's like, oh, I can really start to feel better. So to boil that down, my recommendation would be is to not just get labs done with a holistic functional practitioner, whether that's a functional doctor, a naturopath, a holistic hormone coach expert like myself. Like, get labs done with somebody who's going to look at you and your body as a whole, rather than looking at you as like these divided parts that don't function all together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that perfectly leads me to Jen L's question,
Okay.
Who asked, what are the most important tests that if someone was going to come to you and say, I am having struggle, I'm sleeping, I have anxiety, my period isn't regular, what are the first most important tests that you recommend someone starting with?
Yeah, this is a great question. So there is, no matter who you are, there's a series of labs that I'm going to do on all women. And so the first thing is a CBC that's going to look at, just your complete blood count, your red blood cells, your white blood cells, just a determination of your general health status. So that you're going to get that at any doctor. And then we're also going to look at a hematology panel, which is your iron status. So you get about 4 tests within that iron panel. And that's like really evaluating the overall health of your blood, looking at signs of anemia. Oftentimes, if you are somebody who has heavy periods, estrogen dominance, clotting, even spotting between periods, and you also have feelings of low energy, feelings like you have brain fog. I actually personally went and tested my iron levels today at my OB because I've been feeling kind of like foggy and weird. So, that is what we'll look at. That we'll definitely look at a hematology panel for your iron. We'll look at a thyroid panel. So again, not just your TSH, but a full thyroid panel. What we're looking at: T4, free T3, your active thyroid hormone, antibodies, reverse T3, which actually can show us if you are either on too much thyroid medication or if your adrenals are kicking out thyroid hormone because you're overly stressed. And this is going to evaluate your metabolic health. Thyroid is responsible for energy, heat production. So if you're somebody who's cold all the time, you're losing your hair, you can't lose weight, you have poor digestion, thyroid panel is really important. And I do that on every client because your thyroid also impacts a bunch of other hormones. We'll look at a vitamin D level because vitamin D really helps to look at your mood, I'm trying to say immune and mood at the same time, immune function, your mood, your bone health. So especially for women who are going through menopause or aging, this level is really important. What I'll say about this is the overwhelming majority of people are vitamin D deficient. We'll look at a hormone panel, unless you're on birth control. If you're on birth control, we really can't look at a hormone panel, because it will not be accurate because your ovaries are shut down. And so if you're not on birth control, we'll look at estrogen, progesterone, FSH, LH, just to see what are your overall hormonal values. So we can look at the status of your fertility. We can look at where you are on the path to menopause. How are these hormones affecting your metabolism, your thyroid, your adrenal function? Many women who are having either menopausal symptoms, low progesterone symptoms like anxiety, weight gain, fertility issues like PCOS, or even just bad PMS, will have issues with estrogen and progesterone. And so looking at that and looking at the ratio of estrogen and progesterone on the right day, because again, this is not something that most Western doctors will do. If you go in, they're going to be like, estrogen, progesterone, what? No, you're fine. Like, we're not testing that. If you're getting a period, we're not looking at that. And it's really important because I can tell you most clients who I see, I don't think I've really seen, maybe one out of all of the women I've worked one-on-one with, have I seen a normal estrogen to progesterone ratio. Either usually progesterone is low or estrogen is too high. We'll look at a lipid panel. That's like your cholesterol levels, and fats used by your body. So looking at the risk of cardiovascular disease, looking at inflammation markers like homocysteine and C-reactive protein. Those things are really important for your overall health. Your glucose and A1C, measuring your metabolic health, even insulin for people who are really weight loss resistant, liver function test, because if you're like somebody who is estrogen dominant or you're not detoxifying, hormones and toxins efficiently and effectively, you're going to start to have symptoms. We'll also look at stress hormones, because if you are chronically stressed, and not just in a blood test, this is in a saliva test, it's going to impact all of your other hormones and your digestion, your sleep, your energy, your mood. And so looking at that is really crucial. And then I also look at a stool test for most women, especially those who come to me and say that they're bloated or they are not going to the bathroom regularly, et cetera, et cetera.
The next and last question kind of in this little category was a couple specific questions from last week's episode regarding testosterone and estrogen. Okay. What are natural ways that you recommend to balance those two things if they're out of whack?
So estrogen can be two things, right? And so can testosterone, for that matter. It can be too high or too low. And so when we think about estrogen dominance, so your estrogen is too high, you are going to have symptoms like water retention. You're going to feel really puffy, especially in the second half of your cycle. You're going to be irritable. You might have breast tenderness, swelling, brain fog, irritability, heavy periods, like I mentioned, those types of symptoms. And so if that is ringing true for you and you want to go test your estrogen to progesterone ratio, again, estrogen has to be dominant in relation to progesterone to be considered estrogen dominance, to say that you have too much estrogen. You really want to focus on a few things. One is fiber-rich foods. So making sure that you are eliminating and going to the bathroom regularly, because the way that we excrete excess estrogen is through our stool. And so if you can bind that up in your stool by eating broccoli, cauliflower, kale, all of these cruciferous vegetables that also have something called diindolylmethane in them to help us detoxify that excess estrogen, you're able to eliminate more of it more effectively and efficiently and lower the levels so that they're more properly balanced in relation to progesterone. Now, if you're somebody like me and your estrogen levels are too, I should say, too low, where I wasn't getting a period at all, I had amenorrhea, I had no estrogen in my body because I wasn't eating. What you want to do there is really make sure that you're not on a diet. That's tip number one, make sure you're not on any sort of a diet. Make sure you're eating enough healthy fats. Make sure you are getting enough food calorically in general, because your body needs fuel, sustenance, and specifically fat to be able to create hormones. You also want to make sure you're not too stressed. You want to make sure that you are not too physically stressed, especially. So not over exercising, not overdoing it. Really making sure that you are like going at a more slow pace as you try to get your period to become more regular, or you are trying to regain your period just in general. When we think about estrogen and like getting your period back to, one of the things that I did for a little while was take maca root, because it's really helpful in terms of balancing out estrogen levels. And so that's just like a powdered supplement that you can get if you need to. And then when we think about testosterone, I think that this one is a bit more tricky, because if you're somebody who is in menopause, that's a time in your life where like testosterone can be too low, which is why like a lot of women will experience low libido, have a harder time putting on lean muscle, that type of stuff when they are going through that menopausal time. There's also a lot of different hormones that are shifting at that time. Cortisol is rising, progesterone is declining, estrogen is typically higher than progesterone. And so it's really important to look at that again from a more holistic standpoint than just looking at it from the standpoint of the testosterone only, if testosterone is in fact low. One of the things that does really help regulate testosterone, both in people who have something like PCOS and in women who are low, like in menopause, is putting on lean muscle. So putting on lean muscle by doing something like strength training and eating adequate amounts of protein. Both of those things are really important for testosterone levels and making sure that testosterone levels are normalized. So if I could recommend two things I would say, or three things I would say: eat more fiber. Most women need to do that. No matter what your hormonal imbalance is, make sure you're eating enough healthy fat, make sure you're not over exercise. And if you are exercising, you want to be having at least 3 to 4 days where you are doing strength training.
Hi, I'm Kelley Namiro, your host, certified holistic hormone coach, and Pilates instructor for the WBK method. You can consider me your guide in helping you curate the very best version of yourself from the inside out. Feeling physically better by optimizing your hormones, to feeling mentally and emotionally better by creating a more deep and grounded connection with yourself. I get questions all the time in my DMs about things like, what supplements should I be taking for my menopause symptoms? Or is it normal that I'm always exhausted? My doctor said that's what happens as I get older. Or maybe I gained 20 pounds in the last couple of years and I have no idea how to lose it. And even I'm chronically bloated and I've tried every elimination diet. Please help. But here's the thing. There are no quick fixes out there. Until you know the root cause of what's going on in your body and you use precision supplementation, a targeted diet, and mindset and lifestyle changes that are specific to your unique circumstances and lab values, you're never going to be able to heal. Throwing just random supplements that make all these promises, or a restrictive diet at a weight issue, is never going to work, because it's not focused on what's going on internally with you. And often we can make the problem worse when we do these things. And that's why I've created the WBK Lab Review Package. In this package, you'll receive lab kits and a custom lab form based on your symptoms and health history. Once you've completed the saliva kit for your adrenals, the stool kit for your gut health, and the blood tests for your hormones and other health markers, we'll sit down together and create a customized plan that will help you balance your hormones in a holistic way so that you can lose weight, have more energy, maintain a balanced mood, and achieve the results that you've been wanting. This year, it is time to get the results that you've been dreaming of, because you're targeting your unique system. If you're ready to experience more energy, comfort, confidence in your body, and relief from those nagging symptoms that have been bringing you down, I would love to support you in doing just that. This program includes a one-on-one call between you and me, all of the labs needed to create your customized protocol, and a PDF with your unique plan that you'll be following going forward, so that you can take your time in implementing your new diet, supplements, and lifestyle changes. To learn more about this, head to the link in the show notes or go to wellnessbykelley.com to learn more about the WBK Lab Review.
Let's move into a little bit of health and nutrition questions. So first, I mean, this is kind of a generalized, I think a lot of the things you touch on fall into this, but what is your take generally on biohacking?
On biohacking.
Yeah.
I feel like my husband's really into it. Like super into it. Like he's like become obsessed where it's like he wants to like do all of the things where it's funny because like when we first met, I feel like, or like even like when we first got married, it was like meditation's dumb. Like I'm not meditating. And like all of these things are like stupid and like pointless and like don't have an impact. And now he is literally the person who is in the sauna, in the cold plunge, doing the red bed at night before he goes to bed. And I just think it's really cool because I know that he's seen results from it. And so like, obviously he wouldn't be doing it if he didn't. I never like when I'm doing it myself, which I can't really do a ton of right now, because I'm pregnant. I feel like the reason that my husband got really into it is because he could see that a change in me. So he started meditating because he was like, wow, I can see that she's less stressed. She's less reactive. She's not, flying off the wall stress wise when things come up anymore. I can see that like from the sauna and the cold plunge, like she has more energy. And so that's when he started doing those things. So like, I think I believe in those things. I think that they're fun to add to a health and wellness routine. I don't think that they are necessary for feeling good in your body or feeling healthy. I think there are foundations that have to be applied first for any of those things to have a supplemental effect on your health and well-being. So like, let's say you're eating like complete and total trash, you're not working out, or you're working out like once a week or twice a week and you're, on your phone all the time. Like just because you sauna and cold plunge, you're still going to feel like trash all the time. Like you have to be
the amount of people that try to replace going to the sauna and cold plunging with just general exercise. They're like, I'm sweating it out. Like, no, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Even if the guy at the sauna place tries to tell you that, that's not how it works.
That is not how it works. Just because you're sweating in the sauna, it's not the same as like going and doing an actual workout. So like moving your body, like I feel like the foundations, in my opinion, are you want to have these in place, I think, before you start doing any of this other stuff. Because again, it's like, then it all starts to feel super overwhelming. And you're like, I haven't sauna today. I haven't cold plunged today. I haven't gotten, I haven't eaten my smoothie. And it's like, oh my God. Like, and I feel that same way about like all these ridiculous supplements that are out there. Like, let's all like take colostrum and that's going to solve all of our problems. Like, no, like eat a fucking healthy diet and stop thinking that you need to drink a cow's colostrum. Like, this is just bizarre. But like I said, I'm into a lot of it, but it's not going to work unless you are sleeping, fueling your body regularly at regular meal times with real whole food. I don't know if I said working out or sleeping. So sleeping, fueling your body, working out, and doing something in your life to manage your stress. Because I don't care who you are. If you live in America, where our mentality is like hustle, 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 you are going to feel stressed from time to time. We all have a million demands thrown at us. And so you have to be doing something to manage and regulate your stress, whatever that is for you. Going for a walk without your phone, going and meeting up with your friends and leaving your phone in the car. Like we have to step away from the screens and have time to just de-stress our bodies and come back to ourselves. And that's one of the key components. And then like, you can also say like things like going outside, getting sunlight, all of that kind of stuff. And then once you have those foundations in place, if you want to add on a cold plunge, a sauna, a fun supplement, you'd start doing that, but don't overwhelm yourself thinking you have to do it all.
So I can guess that you're not like a big advocate for replacing your meals with Soylent. That was when I was in San Francisco in tech. All of the engineers, they would just drink Soylent. They don't even know what that is.
What is that?
Soylent? Oh, it was huge, maybe like 5 years ago. And it was literally just like a shake that was a meal replacement. And like they advertised it to tech guys basically being like,
You don't have to
you can optimize yourself to never have to get up and work all day, and like you don't like screw food. Like we have all of the nutrients in here, and if you guys now you can optimize yourself. Like look it up. It's like
that is exactly what I mean when I say like the hustle culture thing. It's like, don't listen to your body's cues. Like, let's not do that. Like, let's just like completely ignore what our bodies are telling us. And like, let's instead drink this drink so that we don't have to get up to go pee or eat food. It's like, oh my God. Oh, wild world we live in. And we wonder why everybody's sick and not feeling well.
Yes. And depressed and never leaves their
anxious
house.
And never
all right. Well, in that case, what is an ideal diet, carbs, fat, protein, fiber for, I mean, we get this question all the time.
Yeah.
So maybe for people in their 20s to 30s, 30s to 40s and 50s plus.
Well, are you asking like macro breakdown?
Yeah, like, like just what, like generally do you, as we age, do those like the macro breakdown of those things need to change?
Okay.
Or is it something that, do we need less fiber when we're younger versus when we're 50?
Okay. So I'm going to say this as like from the perspective of, women versus men, because I feel like that's probably what our listeners are mostly here for. So look, when I think that no matter who you are, like I mentioned earlier, most people are not getting enough fiber. So that's a really big one. Most people, especially women who are menstruating, need to be getting 30 to 35 grams of fiber a day. And if you like, I had a client text me a couple of days ago and she was like, oh my God, I'm only getting like 12 grams of fiber a day, like consistently. And I don't really usually recommend clients to be tracking their food every single day, but I do think that when we're first starting working together, it's important to get a baseline to understand this is what I'm eating and I need to make this shift. Again, like measuring things so that we can make progress is really important, because if we don't know, like same thing with labs, we have no idea what the baseline is, like why would we be motivated or want to make a change in our lives? And so I'll have them do that at the beginning. And I was like, okay, so this is motivation for you to like add in more greens, add in more fiber, things like that. Now, as we age, we need more fiber. Oftentimes, especially like as women move into menopause, for digestive support to prevent constipation. So more fruits and vegetables as we age. So if you're closer to that, like, 27 to 30 range day to day when you're menstruating, and then you get closer to that 35 grams of fiber, when you're going from perimenopause into menopause, that's important. Also, as you age, you need more protein. And so I typically will say, like for most women who are in their 30s, you can get away with 80 to 100, unless you're pregnant, grams of protein per day. That's if you're an active woman, you're, strength training a few times a week. Like typically that's like a nice, again, this is based on like a normal body weight. As we age, as we move into menopause, you want to be getting more protein in, because aging is associated with a natural decline in muscle mass. And so we don't want you to have to deal with that associated metabolic change where like a lot of women going through menopause will start to gain weight because their muscle mass is declining. And so if we can target that by you getting a little more protein, you getting a few more like strength training workouts, and you're going to see a big shift in how your metabolism functions, how your energy is, and the muscle tone in your body. And so you want to focus on really quality proteins, fish, eggs, legumes, grass-fed meat, those types of things, right? And so those two things, fiber and protein, do need to increase as you age, the older that you get. And then when we think about like healthy fats, no matter what your age is, you need healthy fats. Like I was mentioning, like the big part of the reason why I lost my period was because I was like, I'm not eating any fat. Like I was of that mentality of like fat makes you fat. So I'm not eating it. So like everything I thought at that time was like, I'm going to get like all the 100-calorie packs. Like when I do eat, I'm going to have that as my I like look back at that time and cringe. My source of like food. And it's like, if there is fat in like those like 100-calorie, goldfish or Chips Ahoy, it's like the really crappy, like yeah, like inflammatory seed oils, like that type of shit. And so you want, no matter what age you're at, you want to be getting a good amount of healthy fat in your diet. And so when I think about it from like the perspective of a plate, I like to look at it as like, okay, half of my plate is greens, like low glycemic, fiber rich carbohydrates, whether that's asparagus, broccoli, a nice green salad, or a combination of those things. I say asparagus and broccoli because that's the only vegetable that my my one kid will eat right now. My other kid will eat anything. And so we often have asparagus and broccoli. So that's half my plate. Then a quarter of my plate is typically a low glycemic carbohydrate. We actually just you and I filmed a recipe this week that is like very much like a balanced plate approach. And so in this specific example, it was white beans. You could also do sweet potatoes or, quinoa, something that is a complex carbohydrate. So it's not turning directly into glucose. It's not like sugar in your bloodstream. It's not processed like a white bread. It's something that's going to digest much slower because there's fiber attached to it. And then quarter of my plate is protein. And then I usually will do a tablespoon of some sort of fat. So olive oil or, a good portion of avocado on top of my salad or something like that. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we got to go for all the moms in the DMs that want recommendations for kids' diets.
Yes.
You using the same kind of ethos for kids, or are there other things that you're making sure you're incorporating?
Yeah. For my kids, I typically will come from the perspective of like, okay, if we're doing fish with beans and broccoli, like that's what they're getting to. Now, do I accommodate their preferences? Of course I do. Like, but I'm not like in the kitchen and being like, okay, Chad and I are having fish with beans and broccoli. Our kids are having peanut butter and jelly and macaroni and cheese. Like, no, we're not doing that. We're not going there. Like, I'm not making 6 separate dinners. And I think that because I've taught my kids that way, and like they know that that's what's happening, like that's what they expect. And so they're not asking me for a peanut butter and jelly or macaroni and cheese. They know they're going to be eating what mom and dad are eating. And what I will say, if you have yourself a picky eater, because West is picky, he will only eat broccoli and asparagus. Like there's no other green vegetable. Enzo will like
he didn't want to eat French fries the other day.
I know, like who is this kid? Enzo like will eat a green salad, like he'll eat anything. And so I get that all kids are different. Trust me, I do. It takes 6 attempts for a kid to try a new food for them to actually know whether or not they like it. And so let's say I'm serving, I don't know, green beans at one night at dinner. If Wes says, I don't like it, okay, we're going to try green beans again next week. And we're going to try green beans again the next week. And then after 6 times, he still doesn't like green beans. Okay, green beans are coming off my list. They're not on the menu anymore. But I'm going to get him to continue to try it and not just take his first reaction as like, because kids are tough. Like they're stubborn and they're
surprised too. Yes, like they just, it's never something they've tasted before. And often it's surprise is often immediately pushed back.
Yes.
It's not,
100%. It's like, this isn't familiar. I like familiar. Kids thrive on consistency, just like we do as humans. Like we thrive on predictability and consistency. They don't like new things. So you have to push them out of their comfort zone a little bit to get them to try new things. And there are so many different ways too, I will say, like if we're talking about the kid thing, like to get them to try. So it's like, if you're making green beans and you steam them one night, okay, next time you make them, saute them. Next time you make them, like cut them up in little pieces. Try different approaches, try different seasonings, because it's going to get them more interested. The other thing that gets my kids really interested is that I bring them in the kitchen with me. A lot of the times we'll make the smoothie together. We'll make the broccoli together. We're cooking together and they're like, oh, I made this. Or like, I picked this out at the store and I had a part in this. And so I have more interest in trying it because I actually had a hand in putting it together.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, a couple more questions about parenting for you.
Shoot.
What do you do to find peace when you're overwhelmed when you're raising your kids?
What I have found through a lot of self-reflection, because it's absolutely critical for me to raise my kids in a way where I'm not the only one in control. They are also great teachers to me. And oftentimes I think that when we are triggered or stressed or feeling reactive, it's because our kids are like pushing a button within us of something that's a lot deeper than just being like, oh my God, they're super freaking annoying. Like, and yeah, like, can kids be annoying? Sure, they can be. But what I've often found is that, like, if I'm reactive to my kids, like, if this is a perfect example. I had something come up last night. So we're at a restaurant after T-ball practice. I am having issues with my phone where it's not sending text messages. I have to get back to a client later that night before I go to bed. And I'm trying to figure out with like support why my phone isn't working.
Yeah.
And now if I can step out of that situation and say to myself, like, and then Wes has like a little like sword that he got for like as a gift from his sports practice. And he's like swinging it around in the restaurant. Now, if I was coming from a calm, grounded place, I'd be like, sweetie, let's put away the sword. We're going to go put it in the car right now. But I like freaked out and I was like, God damn it, Wes. I didn't actually say that, but like in my head, I'm saying like, God damn it, Wes, like put the sword away. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're not listening. Like, and like started freaking out. And so when we think about like, okay, why, when I step outside of myself and I think about like, why was my reaction like that? Like getting mad, getting frustrated, snapping, like, it's because I wasn't grounded. I was trying to deal with some bullshit on my phone that like didn't actually matter in that moment. What mattered in that moment was that I was at a restaurant with my family. I should have been focused on that thing. But when we come from this place of like, there are other things, and that's life, that's human life, right? It's like, it's going to happen, but we have to step back and look at like, what's the priority in this moment? What should I be focused on in this moment? And in those moments where like I have those things happen, I see my kids as my greatest teacher to be like, okay, like what I'm doing right now doesn't matter. And I'm triggered because I feel like I, am not worthy if I don't get back to this client. I'm not a good enough health coach, whatever it is. But it's like, that's my own shit. And I'm projecting it onto them through my reactivity. So I need to do a better job of prioritizing, recognizing that like this issue with my phone is not important in this moment, and coming back to a place of peace so that I can parent from a grounded, non-reactionary place, because my kids deserve that. They absolutely deserve that. And again, like, I'm not hard on myself in those moments. I realize that like we all have that stuff come up. And instead I really try to learn from those little like lapses in judgment and like those reactive times, because if I do, and I know that like, okay, like I'm not going to do that again. And I don't want to do that again. I don't want to show up that way again. I can be better for myself and I can be better for them.
All right. Well, one more question before we jump into a couple little games.
Okay.
What are you most excited about and most scared about with baby girl on the way?
Most excited about, I think I'm most excited to like, don't get me wrong, my boys are my best friends. I love them to death. They are so fun. We have so much fun together, but I am so excited to like have somebody who I can, down the road, like I know this is years away, but like go get my nails done with, and like we can go, like I can do her hair in cute little styles. And like, I'm just really excited for all of the things that come along with having a little girl that just, you don't get to necessarily experience with a boy. And I just feel really blessed and grateful that I get to experience having both, because I think that they're both going to be fun in really different ways. I think she's also going to be a pistol, because if she's anything like her two brothers and she has to like defend herself, she may be like a total tomboy, and I may get none of the things that I'm looking for. But as of right now, that's what it is. And when it comes to like thinking about what I'm most scared about, I think it's the idea of making sure that they all get enough of my time. And I think a big reason for that is like full transparency and vulnerability. Like we're going through something with Enzo right now that we never went through with West, where he's like pushing other kids. And like, I see that as like a reaction to potentially him not feeling like he's getting enough attention. Because when I'll say things like, oh, are you excited for baby? Are you excited for baby sister? Like he'll like put his hands in my face and say, no, sister. And so I just want to make sure that I'm giving each of them enough of me, enough of my attention, enough of my love. And I think that, like having 3 kids is a blessing, but it's also a big job. And so, dividing my attention appropriately and making sure they're all seen is probably what I'm most scared of, but also like what I'm thinking about a lot. And so I'm like proactively trying to
you're not going to unconsciously let it happen. You're going to bring, just in what you coach and what you do is just you spend the time bringing mindfulness into those things, and that's how you get ahead of it and not let it happen and then have it affect one of them. So I'm sure you're going to do great at it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
All right, let's play a little game before we're done.
Okay.
All right. We're going to do a little this or that.
Okay.
All right. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
LA or New York?
New York.
Europe or Asia?
I feel like I haven't spent enough time in Asia, and like my one experience, not one, but like my major experience there was like 10 weeks that I spent there when I was getting my MBA in Beijing. And like, Beijing is just like, no offense if you come there, it's just like, it's not the vibe. Like, it's just not, it's really dirty, super polluted. The food is not, I got food poisoning twice there. But like, when I think about like Thailand and like Chad and I really want to go to Japan, I want to say Asia, because like I've spent a lot of time in Europe, but like when I have done like Thailand and I'm trying to think of anywhere else I've gone over there, I feel like it was like a really special experience and just feels really different than our own culture. So
yeah, certainly. All right. To relax, take a nap or read a book?
Right now, take a nap. Love naps right now. And I wouldn't normally say that, but pregnancy, I love naps.
Are you a text or call girl?
It's funny. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I will like text when I'm in the middle of the day, just like doing stuff. But if I'm in the car, like going somewhere, I want to call someone, like whether that's my mom or Chad or like my best friend, like I want to call and like I have a chat. Like, I don't know why. It's just like being in the car.
Yeah, I can feel that. I feel like that's like such a generational question.
Yeah.
Everybody like, but no, I feel like the car is a weird place for our generation where like, yeah, I'll hop on a call in the car. But most of the time, every other instance, I'm always texting.
Totally. I feel like it's a nice time because you're like, I mean, you really shouldn't be texting.
You shouldn't be focused.
But like if I have my phone on a call, I'm like, oh, this is a nice time for me to be able to catch up with someone who, even my own husband, who I know I live in the same house with him, but it's like we have 2 kids who are 4 and under, and like we don't get a lot of time to talk. So it's nice to like have time to catch up on other things and have a real conversation.
All right. Well, then in that case, are you a passenger or a driver?
Oh God, my husband would like rarely lets me drive. Like that's one thing that you guys probably don't know about me. I'm a horrible driver.
I actually have a really hilarious story.
Shoot.
One time, I was leaving your house and you must have been going on an errand that was close to my house, and you were behind me for like almost my whole drive home. And we got to the split where you're like, you get onto 95 as if you're going to downtown.
Yeah.
And you almost missed it. And you cut over. So I like literally was like, I was on the phone with Gordon, my husband, and I was like, oh my God, I think I almost saw Kelley just get in an accident. You made it, you were fine. And then the rest of the drive, because we were on the same.
You're like, I don't ever want to be in a car with this woman.
I feel like you realized that you almost did something and you were driving quite safe after that.
Chad's like, I don't want you driving with our kids. I don't want you like, and like God, like thank God, like nothing has ever like, I mean, I was in like an accident in high school when I first got my license. Actually two, to be fair, but like since then, nothing bad has happened, but I'm not a good driver. So I am a passenger through and through. My husband drives our whole family anywhere we go. He's like, we're on a road trip, you're not driving. No.
All right. Travel back to the future or back in time or to the future?
Oh gosh, to the future. And I know that like you probably shouldn't say that because it's like you want to like have a little mystery and like not know what's going to happen, but
you want to know?
Yeah, I kind of want to know.
All right, I got a few throwbacks for you.
Okay.
Brittany or Christina?
Brittany.
Juicy or Von Dutch?
Oh my God. I have experiences with both, but I would probably say like if I had to choose one back in the day, Juicy. I like those velour sweats.
Those,
like
exactly. You know they're coming back. They just started creating them again.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then OC or Gossip Girl?
Oh, I loved both of those shows, but I probably would have to say OC. I was more into that. I should rewatch. I feel like we should like rewatch those shows. Yeah.
I think there's like a new version of Gossip Girl out with a whole new
I tried to watch it. It's so bad.
And I just can't get into the new version. Did you read the books?
I didn't read the books.
I started with the first books and then the show was so good that I was like, screw the books.
I'm not doing the books.
All right. Last game. A little Vegas hit list. Everybody always wants to know where you go. Everybody comes to Vegas at some point. So a few of your recommendations. Where do you go for matcha?
Matcha, either Pete's, which they only have at least one that I know of because they closed the one by my house. On Sahara, they'll do like an unsweetened almond milk matcha latte, or there's a place that's by my house and it's new to me. It might be really old, but it's called, Chad and I just went there after we went to go work out the other day, and it's called Caffeine Machine. And they do a really good unsweetened, because most, like if you go to Starbucks or something, their matcha is sweetened and it's got like so much sugar in it. And it's like,
everything from Starbucks has so much sugar in it.
And like, you guys know, like that's like I can't like all of that. You might as well just be like asking for a hormonal imbalance if you're drinking sugar all day long, like Coke, sweetened Starbucks, like just like, no, there's so many other options. And so when I go, I get either iced or hot unsweetened matcha with almond milk, and like steamed with cinnamon usually. All
right. Okay, your favorite place to hike in the Vegas area?
We go to Mount Charleston for hikes most of the time. Even though it's a lot further. Mary Jane Falls is really good. I like Red Rock is so close to our house, but just going and being like a little, it's really busy, and being a little elevated at Mount Charleston, like the weather, it's like
so much cooler.
75 degrees.
It can be like 40 degrees cooler there.
Yeah.
Especially in the summer, you have to go up to Mount Charleston. Red Rock, it's like, unless you're going to get up at 4:30 in the morning, it's going to be hot by 7 a.m.
100%. That's why I was, you know what? like, this is a random aside. Kate and I both have the most amazing, speaking of recommendations, masseuse.
Massage therapist in the world, not in Vegas.
No, like the best. Like her name is
best.
Lena. I've tagged her multiple times on my Instagram. But she is one of those people that could like go hike in the middle of the day at like 11 a.m. and like 100-degree weather. I'm like, you're crazy, girl.
She's insane, but she also takes you on adventures when you go. So
you get something out of it.
Yes, exactly. All right, favorite meal place to go right now? I know it changes all the time because we got new restaurants all the time.
That's a good question. Okay, so meal where we've been going a lot. We like right now we're going to this. There's a new, you told me about this place. I went there for Mother's Day. Fine Company in downtown Summerlin. Their food's really good. I went there for lunch today. That was really good.
It's so good.
I like You or Me for sushi. That's in Durango. It's like, they have like the cutest little food hall. And their sushi is so good. And they'll do like any sort of, a lot of times I'll like to get like a roll, like wrapped in cucumber rather than wrapped in rice. And they will do literally anything. They'll accommodate anything. It's so good. So You or Me at Durango. Where else do we like to go? I'm trying to think.
Have you been doing Nico's a lot lately?
We go to Nico's a lot at Durango. I feel like Durango, Red Rock, we go there, those places a lot. We go to, I'm trying to think. I don't like, there's not a ton of restaurants in downtown Summerlin I love. When we go down to the strip, we will go to, I'm trying to think. There's a sushi restaurant at the Wynn called Mizumi. That's good. We like sushi, so we'll do that a lot.
Favorite place to shop in Vegas?
I am not gonna lie, you guys. If I was to sit here and tell you that I go shopping in Vegas, I would be lying to you. I do my shopping online. The majority of like the cool, fun stuff that I get is from a girl named Natalie P. I tag her all the time on Instagram too. And she works for a company called Threads. And their whole thing is like, they can source really like cool, exciting, fun, high-end pieces. So I'll get a lot of my bags, a lot of my shoes from there. And then
I love that bag that you posted today, the newspaper bag.
I know, it's so fun. Vintage. I love it. I'm like, I never usually buy vintage stuff, but I'm like super into that right now.
Yeah, that was great.
And then I get like, right now being pregnant, I get a lot of stuff usually from Revolve, just because like on a scale, like compared to I'm not going to buy clothes from Threads while I'm pregnant, and you know, they're only going to fit for like a few minutes. So I'll do a lot of stuff from Revolve. I've been actually buying clothes randomly from like this is such a throwback, but from Abercrombie, one of my really good friends, like my best friend in the whole world. She's like, you have to buy, like they have like really nice like big dresses and like
everyone talks about their jeans. All my like I have multiple adult friends that say they're the best jeans, and I was like, I haven't shopped at Abercrombie since I was 14.
Literally, that's how I felt until I just did an order there a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, okay, I can get into this. So I'll get stuff from there. There's a company online two companies that I like, The Great and Elwood for sweats. Those are both really good for like oversized, like comfy sweats. Beyond Yoga and Set Active, I've been doing a lot of their like workout clothes. But yeah, I can't even tell you the last time I went to a mall or like a shopping place in Vegas.
All right. Favorite place to relax or spa in Vegas?
So I love the spa at Red Rock. We hold all of our retreats there. It's like the most gorgeous, luxurious, beautiful spa. They have really great techs, and like it's like never overcrowded, and it always feels really clean to me. So if you're looking for like that whole spa experience, I would say like you want to go steam and sauna and go in the hot tub and like sit by the pool with your friends and eat lunch and then go get a massage and a facial. Like you can do that all in one there, and it's really nice. Like I mentioned, I love Lena. She comes to my house usually once a week to do a deep tissue massage, and like honestly being at home is really convenient because then I can just grab the boys. I did one experience at the Fountain Blue Spa, which is brand new, which is nice down on the strip. I will say any other spa I've been to on the strip is gross. Like, I'm not like being mean or judgmental. I'm being super truthful. Like, even I did the Bellagio spa. It was so gross recently. We did the Wynn Spa a couple of years ago. I'm like, I'm just like not impressed. I feel like they need to be redone. And like, it's just not a good vibe. So Red Rock is always clean. It's always like really well kept. And like, I feel like the people who work there are great.
All right, last one. What is your go-to date night out for you and Chad in Vegas?
Like, like where we go?
Yeah. Or what would you do?
Okay. So if we're going to like go out and like go do something, like we hate like anything, anywhere that's loud. We don't want to be, so we want to be somewhere where we can have like an actual conversation with each other and like hear each other talk.
We just get to an age where there's just like, all right, I'm done now.
Like, I'm not ever going into a nightclub again. Like, don't ever expect to see me there. And like zero judgment when we were in our 20s, like if you would have asked me this literally 10 years ago when we were first dating, like you would have seen us at like Excess or something like that. Like that's what we would have wanted to do. But no, we will probably go have dinner somewhere on the strip. Like one of the places I listed, like go to Mizumi. We've been to Milos like multiple times. I'm trying to think of like where else we like to eat that's down there. What's that place that we were talking about the other day that's like in Chinatown, like kind of near the strip, the Sparrow and Wolf?
Oh, Sparrow and Wolf, yeah.
A fun, like alternative. It's not on the strip, but like go dinner somewhere there where we like down there where we can talk, we can get a good meal, like we can have a good time. And then a lot of times, like what we'll do for fun, if we want like a full night out, is go to a show. And for me, like you really can't do that in other places that like are not Vegas. Like we'll usually go with like one other couple who is my best friend and her husband, and we've gone to see almost all of those like what's that, something Astro World or what's the thing called?
Spiegel World.
Yeah. Shows like the cowboy one, the one at Caesars, like they're all yes, they're all really good and really fun, and like just a fun way to like let loose and like laugh. Like, I mean, you guys know I don't drink, and like I have the best time at those things. We also would do like with the other couple I was mentioning, like we'll go to an escape room or like do something after dinner just like to keep having fun, because we don't like, it's very rare that we go and do that. Usually if we're going out on a weekend, it's like a birthday or an obligation or something like that. So when we do have a date night like that, we like to like really milk it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I got for our game.
Kate, you're the best. This was so fun. I had like the best time doing this. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I hope our listeners feel like they learned something about me or something about hormones.
I think so. You told us all sorts
told
of
you all
stuff.
my secrets.
Yes, exactly.
So we'll have to do this again, but thank you so much. I love you dearly, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. So we will see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Cal.
I really hope that you enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Wellness by Kelley, or head over to our website, wellnessbykelley.com. Sign up now for the Wellness by Kelley 7-day free trial on our app, or head over to our course. And now get 20% off the course or 10% off of the membership with the code Balancing Chaos, all one word, BALANCINGCHAOS. In our course, you'll get access to an emailed lab review plus protocols built out to help you heal with whatever hormonal imbalance you're struggling with. With our membership, you'll receive a library of content with our app with low impact workouts, blood sugar balancing recipes, and mindfulness meditations, all designed to help you balance your hormones and help you feel like you are living your most beautiful, joyful, and vital life. If you like the show, please leave a rating and review. That is the best way to help the show grow and get to more listeners. We hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next week.